Yeah, I want to do that.
We'll pass the floor here.
I know, just need air, right? All you need is air.
Red Sox in Toronto anyway, so what about them doing? Needs back there.
You did? Yeah. Well, wait, yeah, confirmation. Verify.
Now spell it out.
Yeah.
Besides, I got over there. So what is?
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you didn't come first.
Here we go. We do have backup in paper for everything, so we'll be handing those out as well. So for folks that can't see, we'll have a personal copy sent out for you. So this is the third of our budget workshop meetings. The first one was an overview. The second meeting, we delved into warrant articles by detail, and tonight we'll do the same. We just hand around an agenda for folks. Thank you, committee members, for being here on time and keeping them entertained while I was delayed arriving, and for board members who were here supporting as well. And for all of those of you that are participating in the process, we'll get this information around to you. Good. Is it already going that way? All right, we'll split it. We're going to hand around a schedule of the warrant article review.
Thank you. I was heading up there.
Another update of the Article 1 through 11 from the second workshop meeting. Maybe while we're waiting for that, we'll do as we've done with other meetings, to self-introduce around the table so folks know which committees are.
Heath Miller, Athletic, Budget, and Finance.
Rick Lyon, Superintendent Schools.
Frank, Budget Chair, and Building Committee Member, and representing Winterport.
Ricky Nichols, Assistant Superintendent.
Miscellaneous District Accountant.
John Holmes, Winterport Board Member.
Jane Dyer, Hampden, Board Member on the Budget Committee and Education Committee.
Alan Gordon, I represent Frankfort. I'm on the Finance and Building Committee.
Thank you. So I see we have the summary up on the screen. Regan, would you like to walk us through updates from the last meeting and changes that were noted that are now on the sheet?
So last week at our workshop, we did move through Article 8, Article 10, 11, and we started on Article 4. In Article 8, we did have a change because we have received word that the Innovation School in Bangor will not be reopening next year, so we're able to remove transportation costs to the Innovation School. Also for the debt service article, at the last workshop that we had, you may recall that we were discussing the interest number that needed to be adjusted in Article 10, and we've made that adjustment. Article 11, we discussed last week at our workshop that we would be reducing the amount for Article 11 from 40,000 down to 33, so we've made that adjustment as well. Anything else you want to add? No. So at this point, the numbers you see in the FY19 column are what we are proposing. We will be workshopping the articles, of course, in upcoming workshops that are listed on your schedule. And as we do that, we will be making any adjustments along the way and bringing them back at the next meeting for verification.
And so, to compare to the first, or I guess the second meeting, we were at about a 3.96 local. Article 8 transportation, I think, was around 10,000 more. Is that correct?
Say it one more time.
Article 8 transportation was about 10,000 that we pulled.
It was $10,500.
And the debt service, Article 10, was in the 195 range, and that for the savings, and that for the reduction, that is now at 145.
That's right.
So we're actually at total budget impact right now, our variance of 4.07, so different from workshop meeting 2. So tonight we're all about Article 9, facilities maintenance. It's a pretty detailed warrant article as far as it affects every campus. It's been reviewed already, at least some of the capital improvements through the building committee. We've been discussions with finance. We've had, again, I think from a detailed perspective, we've provided or we will have the ability to share some of that drill down analysis of the different items.
You want to go over this review of the overall?
Yeah. That's good. Regan just reminded me that we also have some updates from our second workshop meeting on the revenue side, which will impact our worksheet summary. And this was shared at meeting 2 as well, so this is an updated document from that meeting.
So in the budget proposal worksheet that you all have, we have made some adjustments coming into this week. We had discussed at the end of the prior workshop that there was an interest in some look at revenues, and so we wanted to bring a summary back. We have updated a couple of revenue streams going into next year. Most significantly, we have received word that our regional application has been accepted, and so we can count on the $72,000 that is on our ED 279 that was contingent on approval of regionalization. So we have made an adjustment to the state allocation under FY19 proposed in the amount of $72,978.85. Also, under miscellaneous, you'll see that we have a couple of items. We have entered an agreement with Coca-Cola. They will be providing us approximately $9,000 a year for 7 years. We will be having a contract with them through our food service provisions. And we have added in $9,000 worth of that revenue to the 19 budget. And we also have MSMA rebate coming back to us, and that is for $4,000.
Coke is
9,300 for the Coke. If you look down at the net increase at the bottom of the page in the gray box, we actually are making headway with the budget being reduced overall. We were having a share of 14.4 at our last workshop meeting for our net increase to the local share. We're now at 12.66. And the function of that is primarily the increased revenue.
We also discussed, I think, at meeting 1 and 2, that our local funding formula and the difference in the property valuations and the mill rate for the state resulted in a 0 change to budget being equal to a 6.4% local increase, just based on the way the formula works now. So we are making quite a bit of headway.
Any questions on this, or?
So it's the 18,923,671, that's the state allocation number that changes, correct, for
Yes.
the total state? And then was the $25,000 change on SAC, that was known at our second meeting, Reagan, or the first? Was that in the original spreadsheet? That's,
I'd have to look back at it.
Yeah, I don't think the one that was handed out at the meeting, I had updated when it was handed out. This is the.
Draft one is still in there, so, in the first draft is still in there.
still in there, okay, so that's not a change, yeah, all right, good. Sure.
We'll update our transportation.
Okay.
We already did speak to it.
Right, we have detail for the transportation change for folks that are interested, we'll hand that around. Everyone's current on the backup.
Looks like the other big thing you changed on the revenue side was 140,000 more from unassigned fund balance. From previously that listed as 300, now it's 440.
The original one was at 340, and
That's the same as last year.
that was the same as last year's figure, so we plugged that in. But I have to say that we may be coming back to revisit that.
Sure.
But yes.
But that, I mean, that seems like a way bigger driver than, 9,000 from the Coke and everything else.
Correct.
Reducing that share.
It actually doubles the 72,000 on the revenue side, and and you're looking at 8292 plus the 100. I did grab my first sheet. So has the transportation sheet made its way around? Did you want to call out on that line item?
So on the transportation sheet, we have made the shift to $10,000 for the purchase of a van, likely used. And then we also do have the shift in student transport because of the shift with the school, the innovation school closing.
That's in the, it's contracted services transportation.
So it's the 10,500 you'll see removed from the contracted services transportation in the top portion of Article 8. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, next is the Article 9, facilities. Do we have one handout for that or more? We'll do
We're
them
gonna start with
separately.
that one. At our last workshop meeting, we had been asked to provide as much detailed material about figures and shifts in the articles, so this is our attempt at meeting that need. So at the top, you'll see that we list out the FY18 budget dedication for Article 9, and then our FY19 proposed dedication to the same article. We do see this year that we have a significant variance in Article 9, an increase of 17.78%, and that equates to $620,000. We're going to go through each of these detailed lines so that you can understand where this variance lies and have the rationale for it. And we encourage folks to ask questions and get the clarification that you would need for walking away and understanding where we're coming from. So let's start out with a decrease in Article 9. We've had a significant decrease in electricity costs. We do feel that one of the primary reasons for this is our installation of LED lighting across the district. We are seeing the savings coming in, and we feel comfortable with making a reduction of $96,224.49 in electrical costs across the district for next year.
And that actually puts us below, it's about 100,000 below prior years. That is an actual shift, a dramatic shift from prior budget years. We talked about the group rate for the purchase, for the E-rate, or not the E-rate, the standard offer, or the offer that the schools are subject to or that they're able to participate in. Did you find out more on where that's headed, if that all comes out, or?
I don't have information. What he's speaking to is a brokerage agreement that RSU 22 participates in for the monitoring of electrical rates so that your facilities are receiving the best rates possible. And so we are looking to get as much information as possible about what anticipated rates will look like in the future if we'll be facing any type of increase in that realm. But for now, we do feel confident that with the savings we've enjoyed, that this cutback will be something that we can certainly withstand in the budget. And if we do get more information before we're sealing the deal with the budget, we'll bring it to folks.
And as far as the cost per delivered kilowatt hour, I guess that's the key. If that did go up and we still saw the savings, then the concerns aren't all there. If an increase, residential rates, I know we've seen a bump. And I assume the same is true for large commercial users, maybe not as much, but I don't know if we're on an at-will rate because we're a large user, so we can look into that. And if it already came across our bow as far as that change, and we still saw the costs go down,
Right.
that's great.
All right, next line, decrease in fuel costs. Through the Honeywell Energy Efficient Project, we've made a switch to looking at using propane starting in July. And so we've done some computation with our consumption rates with number 2 fuel, and figured out the costs that we'll be incurring moving to propane in several of our buildings. And we do see that we can enjoy a savings of about $10,000, $10,826 from this conversion to propane starting in July. Any questions on that? Okay, this year, the next few lines deal with personnel, and we have had several transitions in our school district with custodial and maintenance personnel, primarily people either switching spots and moving to different buildings, or we have had a couple of folks depart the district. We also have had situations where we are needing to use custodial contracted service because we are needing to hold a position for an employee for whatever reason that might be. It could be because of being out for a medical issue, and we need to make sure that position is available upon return. So these next 3 lines reflect some of those shifts, so I'll go through those. Our first decrease is a decrease in custodial and maintenance salaries in our budget because we have had folks who were higher on the scale depart, and we've had newer employees join us, and so we have seen some savings there. We also have seen a decrease in those associated benefits with those same employees. We also have a situation where we have transition in budgeting. What we mean by transition in budgeting is that we've had to bring some maintenance position and custodial contracted service into the budget that wasn't in there previously. And those also are situations where we're bringing the contracted service into the correct lines because that particular position may have been salaried in the past, but now we're paying someone through a contracted service. And so you'll see the net there with the $69,984. We also have an increase in contracted services and maintenance of $44,302.97, and that is because we have had an employee who has been working through maintenance, and that employee has been brought fully into the budget, started this current year, FY18, and we're bringing the full salary online for FY19. Anything to add about that? So those lines just are delineating the personnel shifts and the contracted services. We do have a $20,000 increase to the repair and maintenance services line in our budget. That is primarily because we have a list of projects which we'll go over with you in just a few moments that we definitely see that there are repair and maintenance needs of various natures that we need to address, and $20,000 will address some of them, not the entire list. We also have added a new line this year, repair and maintenance of vehicles. We have not had a breakout line for our fleet of vans, and we're going to we've already started this year to break out some of those costs so that we can monitor what our fleet is costing, and also make sure that we are monitoring what the cost of each individual van is, so that we can make some good, solid decisions around replacement. Just as we're proposing, we'd like to replace a van in the coming year.
How many of those do we have?
Hey, Nick.
We go up to number 16, but we've skipped a couple numbers. That also includes a truck or two in there, so I'd say about 13 of them total, trucks and vans.
None of which are numbered 13, I'm sure.
That is correct. And also, we use some of those, SEER uses some of those for their own transportation.
Yes, I do.
So we don't have all of those at our disposal.
Most significant increase you'll see is the new line that we are proposing to fund this year. It's capital repair and maintenance services. Those would be repairs and maintenance that are completed of a substantial nature, $10,000 or more on our facilities. And $510,711.45 is proposed. We do have detail for that today that we will go through. This really is meant to address the need for deferred maintenance in our school district. The building committee has done significant work in looking across the district and across a span of years to determine what our outlay would need to be to address these issues. We do have a deferred maintenance list of 1.8 million, and our goal was to get to a place where we were able to fund in a way that we were looking across either a 3, a 6, or a 10-year plan. So we'll talk about how we've come to some decisions about that costing out. We do have a principal payment on a repair bond that is the usual payment that we need to be making. We have, anything you want to add about that specifically?
That was the new Honeywell project, and the first year was just one payment up front. So that's why this year's payment is bigger. We're going to be making 2 payments on that, and it's larger than the first year's.
So those are 2 roughly $33,000 payments?
They were.
They were.
Not anymore. Right, is that what you mean? The 17,
They were, that's right, last year, last year there were 2, yeah.
Will that be
It was
constant, is
only
that
one.
constant?
We only made one last year.
Is that gonna be constant in future years, Trish?
Yes,
It's leveled off, it's not gonna continue to increase.
yeah, because,
Are you got it? Oh, yeah.
first year we only paid
Is that, that's your 66?
37,000 in
Yeah.
principal,
That's what I thought.
27 in interest. This year we're gonna pay 8 in principal, and an increase in.
And this is not in the debt service line item. How does that differ?
Debt service is for buildings. This is,
So for these are not, right, they're not.
it's not bonded.
It's not bonded that way. Even though it's his bond, it's different.
So for the good of the audience, I'll repeat what we've been chatting about in case you couldn't hear that. This year, we made a payment of, let's see here, $37,489.41. And that was for the Honeywell energy efficient project. But next year, we need to make a payment of $88,524.81. So the $66,000 is the difference, plus the interest.
Right. The interest, the difference between the principal payment and the interest payment.
We do have an increase in capital outlay planning and study of $17,500. Our proposal around this increase is because we anticipate that we will be receiving scoring for the McGraw-Weatherby project that we submitted. We had hoped that we would have scoring back by this point, but we've been notified we will not. And in anticipation that regardless of what the scoring yields, we'll need to be making decisions one way or another. And so we'd like to have the capital outlay money available so that we can be making those plans, decisions, and moving forward in ways that the district and board might wish to do.
This is the line item, the sub line item that includes consultant fees, design services. AE is one of those, and we have a conflict with that line item. That's why in the past 2 years at least, or since I've been involved with budget, as the board goes through the process of adopting warrant articles, this is the one item that I recuse myself on, although I believe it's been looked into in other districts at the overall budget. Once endorsed by the board, we can still support the entire budget, but not the line item. So I will recuse myself again this year when we get to the point of making a recommendation on this warrant article.
And then we have miscellaneous changes, less than $10,000. I can give you some examples of those. For instance, we have put $2,500 in so that we have money to water the fields this summer. We've been put on notice that the use of the fields alternative to the turf will be significant because we cannot utilize the turf, and so we'll need to be making sure we're keeping those fields healthy for summer practices and scrimmages. We have some equipment needs that are increasing at a couple of the schools because we have some replacements that need to be made. We have had shifts in some of the contracted services costs just because of increases due to the additional year. So some of those costs are captured in that $10,249.57.
So are there any questions on any of the overall pieces? There's a handout that goes through the big line item, the capital repair maintenance services. Something you have on the screen, or you'll be able to put on the screen. Leave enough to go around.
Is there enough?
Does it look like we'll run out of copies? We're good? We're good? So at the second meeting, when we talked about the $620,000 rounded placeholder for this item, it was derived, I think, shortly following one of our building committee meetings where we had really just gone through the capital needs assessment, which was a list. It wasn't broken out yet into the 0 to 3, the 3 to 6, or the 6 to 10, perhaps, if you will. That's still a work in progress in the building committee, but there were certainly enough items that were immediate or 0 to 1 that we asked to be looked at to see how they fit within this line item. And it's my understanding that this list is the summary of the immediate to 1 year items.
So I'll start down the column for the FY19 repair and maintenance projects that we're proposing. We have an estimate of cost, of course, for each of these. We certainly feel like these are based on quotes we've received and that they're pretty well accurate. We do have a Smith School entrance that we will be addressing, and the cost for that for ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, $25,000. Flooring replacement in Smith, Wagner, and Reedsbrook at $46,913. This is primarily carpet replacement, that is original carpet in these buildings, and tile replacement that is showing either crack, wear, or is depressing, and we need to level that out. The Wagner School roof has been a topic of discussion for a couple of years. We have received word that contractor feels that we could extend the life of the roof for at least another year, and if not a couple of years. So we're going to have what I'm calling a roof extension maintenance project to make sure that we're seeing that through for $15,000. We're going to be dedicating funds to paving Smith School's yard. It's in the back of the school near the playground. It is significantly cracked and not level. See the cost of that there, $13,133. We also have an ADA access area out behind Reedsbrook that will need to be paved so that we have accessibility to that building in that area for $8,368. There has been talk from a number of people about speed bump improvements, and those would primarily happen in the Reedsbrook area at a cost of $10,000. We have striping of our parking lots. This is routine maintenance that's done, but we need to be able to keep up with that so that we have our parking lots ready to receive traffic. We have sweeping of the campuses for $3,305. Crack filling in many of the areas of parking lots, walkways, common areas for $9,800. And we have the bus garage parking lot grading that needs to happen each year, generally more than once, for $5,000. Bleacher renovation has been discussed with us through our insurance company walkthrough earlier this year. They put us on notice, and that would be $7,945. We have floor drains at Weatherby that need to be replaced, $8,000. A canopy drain outside of Weatherby at $7,500. A manhole drain at Weatherby at $10,000. Wagner has a sidewalk culvert that needs to be addressed. We think that we can do much of that work in-house, but we are putting in $500 toward that effort. We have joint repair that needs to occur primarily on Hampden Academy and then at a couple of our other buildings, $7,224. The band room door replacement at Reedsbrook is where this is dedicated to at $8,395. Our playgrounds are being inspected by the insurance company, and we have already been told that we will need to make significant dedication to wood chip height. So we are putting in $10,000 for both the maintenance of the playground equipment and the wood chip delivery. Reedsbrook's gym is in need of a true refinish for $14,000, and both HA and Weatherby's gym floors need to be screened at $3,600 each. We have alarm system replacements and entrance safety upgrades that we're looking at for both McGraw and Weatherby. $38,000 is a placeholder. We were hoping to have the full quote in by today, but there will be site visits by companies, and they're not complete yet. We have the watering of the fields that I mentioned earlier because of the summer use that we expect this year. We have a Weatherby valve shutoff and a Reedsbrook vent hood for replacement. If you flip the page over, every summer, about the third weekend in June, we do have a community service crew that comes to our campuses, and that is fully managed by our maintenance department and our custodial staff and crew. And the cost of that weekend is $10,000 for supplies, making sure that the crew has everything that they need. And we have gotten significant accomplishment for our projects out of that weekend, so we would want to continue to support it. So you can see that it comes to $275,713.
So that was the, we thought that our short to 1 year list was up in the 300 to, besides $500,000 range. So what we're seeing is it's really in the 275. Again, we don't, with this year being a spike due to the funding change, this is one that we wanted to talk about. Do we want to drop this number back down? If 300,000 is the, well, it's 275 if you included a little bit of buffer there for some of these quotes in the 10% range, you call it, and even 300, you'd still have 210,000 of reserve, if you will, in the capital repair and services line item that we just did by taking that 1.8 million and splitting it over roughly 3 years. It was a little bit longer than that to get to the, in the 500,000 range. So effectively, if we did that, what we'd be saying is, again, without the analysis, are do we have the same amount of capital improvement or deferred maintenance every year, knowing that it's still gonna build? Could we pull 200,000 out of that line item and get it, again, we're just gonna be doing it now over 6 years instead of 3, or do we bump it up next year or 2 years out if other things change? I mean, we've been deferring it for quite a while. I will say this list, you saw a theme, if it was dealing with standing water, washouts, things that might block access for safety, mold and mildew, trip and fall. These were all the items that, as we went down through the list as a building committee, kind of said these are critical, or they need to happen sooner than later. That's where this list came from, and it felt like it was larger at the time, so.
Plus, I assume if insurance is recommending it, that.
Can't have no choice on some of these.
Right. Can I just ask real quick, what, like, at HA, what the bleacher renovation is?
We have bleachers outside on the track.
Oh, okay,
and
I was thinking it was inside.
Also, we need to have our bleachers looked at down at the turf because of the safety around the back, so there's no fall. Was there anything else, Nick, about bleachers or Fred that you? Okay. That's our primary issue. Now, we have bleacher inspection every year, and that is already incorporated into our contracted services budget. This would be above and beyond.
The alarm system at McGraw-Weatherby. So where we're at, talking about McGraw-Weatherby project, is it a safety thing that needs to be addressed right now, or, I mean, I wasn't part of the discussion at the building committee, so I don't know what the discussion was.
Well,
Or would that be included in that renovation, you mean?
Well, it's a $38,000
Right.
Right.
line there. If we ended up going forward from the McGraw-Weatherby project,
You'd be
we throwing it out the window.
part of the discussion when they come for the site visits is going to be their ability to give us a fix for the systems that we have there versus a need for something brand new. So my hope is that we can find a solution to limp along until we have a project decision.
Yeah, this isn't, this wouldn't be the cost for a whole new system by any means. So the question is, you know, if we're 1-2 years away from a full replacement, can we afford to go that long without having a functioning system for
Gotcha.
elementary school? It doesn't seem like, that's why it's on the 0 to 1 list, that get it done now, and, you know.
Is there one at all now? Or this is just an
This is a
upgrade
repair to that system.
that's not functioning?
That's a fair statement.
That's not, so this is a need.
Ladies, do either one of your alarm systems function? Kristen, yours is not?
No, it hasn't,
Jen?
it hasn't since I've been there.
So they're non-operational?
Correct.
Okay, so this is no choice.
Yeah.
Okay, that,
So we talked
It
about
kinda answers that
things
question.
dealing with safety, security, it's, you know, it's a topic everywhere.
It's a
right now.
no-brainer.
right,
It's
that's,
just,
yes.
it's a no-brainer. We
Yep.
couldn't, not,
No question.
you could be, but. So the other thought too is, we also, you know, we heard loudly from people during the turf repair project that we need to plan ahead for replacement. So here we're trying to weave some of that into the budget. I think there's a question of how fast you roll that back in. There's also the issue of these are really capital improvements. We have the ability as a board to allocate funds to a capital fund for known projects. I think if the building committee gets to the point where these can be mapped out a little clearer, I mean, we have a list, there's no question the map is, you can't drive from one end of the map to the other right now, 1.8 million, but certainly a plan that shows how that would go out. In the past, we've allocated $150,000 a year for some of these known projects. It seems that if we were to pull it out of budget, would we set that aside, or would we look at doing something on the capital side so that when that is known and is there, we can do it that way as well? I don't know, that's more maybe a finance.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to what the voters want. If you look at this, you know, our debt service, and you look at the interest we pay, I mean, yeah, looks like I'd rather set it aside than pay the interest on it, but depends on what our voters want us to do, I guess.
So that would actually break it out so that that one item, which is really a capital bucket, can be talked about separately at that warrant article meeting, because it is kept as a separate item. And that way we're not going back in and, because you can't rework those numbers, at least it would be difficult to attack these numbers. These are pretty solid. These are known and necessary. And
Nate has a
I'd like
question?
to add something if I can, something to look at, considering elaborating what he said, is when we're looking at updating things or purchases for these two schools, is think ahead and how they could transfer to the new school should it be, you know, come to fruition. So like the phone systems we're looking at installing next year, we'll be able to pull those out and use them in the new school with and in that happen. So maybe the same thing with the security system as well. Maybe that's a discussion to be had with the vendor, so it doesn't feel like that is such a waste.
that's a good point. I mean, to spend $38,000 on an old system, which, let's just pick a number out of the sky. If that could pay for half of the new system, it would make more sense than to buy the new system and then just relocate and not throw away that 38. But if the new one is hundreds of thousands for two schools, we're talking two buildings and a whole new system for each. So how will we track that one down further? We are waiting for people to walk through the building and give us more detail on that? Okay. Right. 1 point at the local level is roughly, is it 110,000 last year?
113,000 approximately.
So if we were to set 210, and then maybe a capital discussion, that would lower the local rate almost 2%.
Correct.
And not attack any of the critical items. What do folks think on the budget committee? Do we want to approach it that way this year to identify the capital reserve transfer? This is the funds that come from unallocated fund balance that are shifted to either a warrant article or capital reserve.
So it would be a separate warrant then?
It's part of the,
It is
Yes.
a separate warrant article.
right, it's a separate line item as we go through our public forum.
Yes.
Okay, so but there'll be other things in that warrant besides that, so a complete denial of that warrant will still mess us up some other way, right?
Well,
Well, let's talk about that. So what we're discussing is that we have this $275,000 plus a bit of a buffer for that level of
10%.
quote. 10%, we'll say 300,000, we're saying we believe should sit in the budget. But we do have additional projects that we know need to be addressed, and we can consider waiting, but some of them cannot wait long. And one of them I actually put on your list. You see off to the side, it says electrical campus upgrade in Hampden. We've had a walkthrough of our electrical system, so literally we riding around looking at the poles, the transformers. We have some serious age on those, and there is recommendation that those things be addressed quickly. So that would be something that I would suggest that we pull out of capital reserve next year, put in our warrant article for that, because if we were to face a situation where it did not get approved, you know, maybe we'd be fine to move through next year without that project, but I do have to say that the building committee has discussed it, and we all agree that it's,
So it's owned by the district, it's not owned by, there was no easement ever transferred, it's not owned by the electric utility, which is not uncommon on campus settings, and
And just have that checked out too, could run some fiber and it is owned by us.
yeah, it's owned by the schools, or the fiber's owned by the RSU, yeah.
Right, we'd like to put fiber in, I want to make sure we own the poles.
Right,
And
okay.
get permission from the electric company to do that, so we do own the poles.
And there are some poles in locations that are near travel ways that aren't protected, if you will, that have, they're basically the only power supply to one or more buildings. If they were hit, given the age of the equipment, we would be down, we'd have more than snow days to worry about. So it was really a sort of a courtesy review by the utility company at how we tie into their grid, and they just highlighted very quickly some old equipment, some of which I think is in the area where a McGraw-Weatherby project would perhaps handle some of that. So again, we just need to keep that in mind. We don't overlap, but certainly there are others that aren't anywhere near that project that are over 50 years old or more. So last year, we put 150,000 into the capital, correct? And that was identified for what purpose? I don't recall last year.
I have that right.
You got the newspaper, there you go. So we're talking about that electrical would then add to this 210,000.
Do you know how much?
I don't think they have a number yet. Alan, have you, no feedback yet on that?
Okay, the projects that we had come out of capital reserve last year, window sill replacement at Weatherby School, various paving projects throughout the RSU, flooring replacement at Reedsbrook Middle School, and then we had the school revolving renovation fund water infiltration project at Reedsbrook. The front window was taken out.
So the flooring is on here again for Reedsbrook Middle School, so it's just on,
It's
on
the
lower level.
upstairs instead of the
Ongoing.
downstairs.
Gotcha.
What was that level rated last year?
150,000.
And they went from carpet to or vinyl, yeah, just health issue, safety.
So that was 150,000, but this also encompasses what we always called summer maintenance, right? This would, some of this stuff would be in our regular summer maintenance.
Some of it has been under contracted services in the past, for instance.
So we're really not looking to increase, by 125,000. We're looking to put 275,000 in this reserve, but we're not really increasing by 125,000.
We are increasing. Many of these projects are.
But a lot of the summer maintenance that we would have done already, like some of these things.
Sweeping and things like
Right.
that, they would have been part of the baseline, that's a good point.
They'd be in summer maintenance, they wouldn't have been in.
That's true.
Unless we skipped 2 years.
Not to
or 3
the
years.
degree that we've asked for the quotes for them, because we know that it's gotten away from us. So we've made a concerted effort to ask that we be able, like, the perfect one is crack filling, for
Right,
instance.
that's
Yeah.
That has been on at least 3 years, but thank you for that.
The paving is significant this year. We haven't necessarily gone for that level of paving through capital reserve.
The amounts spent in the past on those summer programs were quite small compared to this. This is a significant sum of money.
But it is true that you would see some of those same contracted services being provided. I actually have the list right here, but not to the degree that we have asked here.
So if we were to, again, round numbers, if we took the 620 delta and brought it to 420,000, or 410,000 actually, we take out 210. We would then be in a situation where we could itemize what we think would fit well with the capital transfer, and then prioritize those, and maybe talk about those at a future budget workshop, to make sure maybe we'll have a number on.
Sure.
Because this is a private electrical contractor, it's not, well, actually, they could do it, but they said that would be crazy for us to pay them to do that, so they encouraged us in the building committee to get quotes for the electrical upgrade work, at least to know what those are, and then if it doesn't get done this year, it rolls back onto that master list, and, you know, hopefully it doesn't roll into the 0-year list, but this is one that is somewhat safety related, because when the power, we don't have generator backup at
Not all schools.
not all schools.
And this is just some things in there that I don't see leaving in that
That they were
category.
in.
You know, it's just, like watering the fields, for instance, that's something that we do anyways. I mean, we may be doing it more, but.
So this was a safety, again, when the artificial turf was being used in the summer, they avoided use of some of the other fields that became basically weren't watered to this level, so they're harder
May need to water
surfaces. So if you're gonna use them more, you're gonna have to, this is increased water.
But I do, yes.
But we
and
did
I-
have watering in the budget.
I do agree with Heath about the watering. We did make a new line, and I wrote that on the prior sheet. We made a new line, pulled the watering out, because we did feel like that was something.
I remember a couple of years ago, we spent 20,000 watering anyways, and we were just trying to stay
Right, you've been
ahead of
paying those.
rain.
Oh.
Well, that's right.
So we don't this year.
Drive the summer.
So Ron, going back to your thinking process, so right now, say that again, you're looking at the 620, what are you thinking as far as advocacy of placeholders there? Did you say 220?
Well, we would take basically the big line item of 510 and lower it to
Okay.
300,000,
Got it.
so we take 210 off
Got it.
620. We would then move that 210 into a conversation where we look at all capital projects. Because to put it into a budget line item and then become part of an annual expectation, I don't think, for at least the next 6 years, we have to deal with it. As we work our way through that list, and maybe 6 years is long enough where it gets worked into a budget.
Yeah, and
As
going back
opposed-
to
But
your
it is
point-
capital, and I think we have, it's different because we look at it differently in building committee, and things change priority based on how quickly the remaining useful life horizon is reached, and some of them may or may not have synergies that cause safety issues. Like the culvert issue, if that blocked and flooded, it's your one safety access around, to McGraw School. So do you take a risk or not? Those are the things why they were put there.
And also, Ron, being highly cognizant of your point earlier on the local, if you do that, that would suppress the local, probably about 1.75%,
So we'd be down around
approximately.
11-ish.
Yes, 11-ish, yeah.
So that means we're about 5% over, it's 5% is due to increase, the rest is the
There you
local
go,
change.
there you go, yeah.
There was a question.
I'm just trying to follow this discussion. So we're talking about the first sheet you mentioned had the 500,000 in the big deferred maintenance that you really want to catch up on.
Roughly 3 years, right?
Right. But right now, the proposal that the list that Regan's come up with is about 300,000 worth of that.
Which puts us out 6 years on that big list. Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to figure out where they were all coming from and going to. So the aggressive addressing of deferred maintenance would be about 500,000 a year. The more stretched out would be 6 years at about the 250, 300,000. That's
correct.
And we want to make sure we didn't get into critical items, and that list is really at least from the building committee's perspective, was considered 0 to 1 year or safety or more critical. Others will probably end up there after another year of wear and tear, but again, if that happens every year, then that's the basis for this increase. And to Heath's point, if we bump this line item up 300,000 this year, we can expect that to happen, it's gonna happen at least 4 more years, so. And then unless the capital picks away at it, and you just do the math and say, all right, it's now knocked down and it's now 200,000 a year, we can take 100,000 out 3 years from now or something. But if we don't,
Well, one thing
It's
Heath's
getting
also
later.
bringing up is that the contracted services maintenance line,
Right.
okay, has has some
Oh, right.
expenditures that relate to some of these projects. And if we find that in completing these, we have also siphoned off some of the expense of those contracted services, we'll know that
Right.
next year and be able to make a correction. But I think right now, we have asked that we go at it, as Jake said, a bit more aggressively so that we get it done.
But we've deferred now, well, we've been deferring for a while, but instead of trying to hit it in 3 years, we're now going out to 6, but not cutting the critical items.
What's the equipment replacement on the right-hand side?
So this is a detail for you all related to the custodial equipment that we'll be asking for. We have custodial equipment at some of the buildings, for instance, HA is in need of a floor scrubber. We have requests at other buildings for some maintenance equipment like snow blower. We are going to be purchasing cafeteria tables at McGraw and Weatherby. The insurance company has asked us to please strongly consider that because of some pinching mechanisms in the old style tables. And then we have compressors at HA dealing with our geothermal system that are presently working. We've had some great maintenance this year to keep them going, but we do recognize that there is a chance that we will need to be replacing them, and our warranty is over.
I was gonna say, is that a normal lifespan? Because the building's fairly new, I was just curious. Are we getting out of them what we were supposed to get out of them?
I think there's always an expectation that there's a percentage of failure rate across a major project, and I
Sure.
think that certainly the compressors have been worked on
Yeah.
in these cases.
Hard to believe we're finishing our 6th year here.
Hmm.
Seems like yesterday.
But
6 years.
that's a theme that we should really talk about, because although we're talking about the compressors here, these things are happening across our building at HA. We've had to address several different facets of the building, and we are running into the fact that the warranties are gone.
Your beneficial occupancy term is no more than 10 years, or at 6 already, when you can almost get by without doing much of anything until things start to,
Right.
I mean, that's an overstatement, but usually a beneficial occupancy of quite a few years where you're at first covered under warranty, and then it's all new, and that's why new versus reno is always a tough call, because when you reno, you always have old that keeps getting older. So the 40,400.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Where
where
does
is
that
that
live?
figure? Is that live?
Is that the capital, is that a capital item, or is that, I don't see it in.
No, it lives in lines such as, let me show you. It lives in lines for custodial equipment. We actually detail it out by building. We have equipment replacement lines, so the cafeteria tables will be under equipment replacement for each of the buildings where they will be received. The snow blower and maintenance equipment is under equipment replacement for maintenance. And our compressors will also live under equipment replacement. And depending, typically, you'll consider them capital if they're $10,000 or more. So likely, it would simply be under equipment replacement at HA.
So Regan, this is informational. This is in the,
Correct.
right, this is not in addition to, this is informational to describe some of the other line items that occur.
That's right.
I thought it was an additional 40.
I mean,
Yeah.
these do happen on an annual basis. They're not always one time, but they're
So this is-
rotating costs.
That 40,000 is living in
It's-
Article 9.
It is living in there.
It's already embedded.
Thank you, clarifying. And again, the only one that we don't have a number on yet, or that hasn't even made its way to building committee on the quote, is the electrical upgrades. And we know that the list is endless at this point as far as budgeting is concerned, so what we put in the capital is probably a function of where we end up at the end of the budget development process of what the local impact is.
And that electrical could end up being a 0 to 1 then.
It could be if somebody runs into it.
Well, if we get another windstorm or
Windstorm or-
that we had.
Yeah.
But that's what capital reserve is for.
Sure.
And so I think we're in a position right now where our capital reserve is, our balance is about $350,000. We will be drawing some of that out for this FY18 year for the projects that I read earlier out of the newspaper. But if we do make a dedication to that fund again at the district budget meeting, I think we'd be in a position where we'd be ready to address it if that were to happen.
I mean, my recollection is, as long as I can remember, we've been putting 150 or so a year into that, which is just to say, take care of these things, but we're seeing now is a list that's anywhere from 300,000 to 600,000, depending on when you tackle it, so it hasn't been enough, but it's, but we can't grow it too quickly, particularly this year where our zero change is already a 6.5% local change. It's just not the year to do it. All right, so we'll come back with more detail on that, Regan. Maybe if you could, on the capital line item, where we have for balance, what we'll take out, what the remaining will be, what these things would do, maybe we end up between 150 or, it's not just simply adding the difference from this sheet.
Correct.
Any other questions from folks or comments? From the finance standpoint, were there any of these other items that you think were covered in our annual there's the detail for that to compare from, because we're saying we're doing an expenditure base, so we want to look at what have 16, 17 expenditures been, and if these are overages or from that, what is the cause? We know that, for instance, the contracted services, some of those are in a bucket of, you may have a list, but those are contracts that expired that were, one of which was, grounds maintenance, which we know went up, and it was a 3-year contract, and there are others that are in that bucket.
Right.
So that's truly an increase over those previous line items. Because those are usually the ones that you can rely on not changing for at least 2 or 3 years.
Right. Yeah, really, you've only got 3 items there, really, that have changed for that reason. I mean, those 3 in the middle, 69, 44, and 25.
And again, the big one was just making sure we address deferred maintenance. We have not been keeping up with it. And we started talking about that long before we knew what the new state funding formula was going to be. So it's, this wasn't done to exacerbate the process, if you will. It was done out of real need and understanding of what we had for capital improvements, and it just happens that this year is a tough year to listen and try to sell that and push it through.
Also, Regan, in that $69,000 increase, wasn't a large chunk of that associated with the salary of that person you referenced earlier, or was that a different line?
I would say that would be it.
I think, if my memory serves me correctly, around 21,000 was associated with that salary, was it not? And that used to be at a different line.
So I was going to say, where did that come out of? There's another
Yeah.
article that would have decreased.
Just
We'll
one, yeah,
get
okay.
we'll get to that in one of the.
Yeah. So that would account for almost a third of that increase right there.
So the next meeting is May 1st. We'll cover Articles 1 and 2. Okay. I'm going to give a quick preview on what those will entail, Regan, and what folks might expect for.
What was the decision?
Oh,
Was it gonna wait
on-
for the electrical? What was the final?
So if we reduced what was really a capital improvement line item that was going to be sort of made into at least a 3 to a 6 year annual budget change, and pulled some of that out, addressed it separately as a capital, we need to address that at a following meeting, but you're right, we do need to talk about, are we all set with lowering this
Right,
line item to 410?
right.
And again, part of it depends on what we resolve perhaps at the presentation about the capital items. Although this still includes, the 410 includes these 0 to 1 year critical items, so I'm.
It does.
Again, part of this was just a desire to start cutting away at those long-term capital, and maybe a better place is to put it in the capital line item, not in the annual budget line item. Do we need a,
I think we should have a
Yeah, we
recommendation
need
so
a-
that we can go back
and I'll have to
make,
probably abstain from that, so we'll have to have a motion and then. Motion and recommendation to move forward with a change that we'll report on with a carrying of a change of 410,000. Do you have the actual number of what that would mean then on the list here? That would be,
So it's gonna come out of the, it's gonna
it would
come
be
out
under
of.
Article 9 would be
Instead of 620,
right,
Will be 410.
it'll be 410.
Correct.
right. And then whatever that results in the FY19 total, which I think is the part we're supposed to,
Yes.
so we can take 210 out of that.
So if we look down further, that 210 is coming away from the 510.
From the,
Yes.
from the 5,
Yes.
okay.
So that would take item 9 from 4107,850.06 minus 210 would make it 3,897,850.26 for Article 9. That would be the new number that the bill, the
could you say
budget
that
committee.
one more time?
3,897,850.26. If you want to double check that. It's,
So just to put this in the context, I'm looking at you, Jane, that what we're advocating for support is we're taking a 5, 10, 7, 11, 45 cent line, reducing that by 210,000.
Right.
Then we'll take the 620,000 and reduce that by 210, bring in 410,000.
Right.
As the annual figure.
That, okay. Very nice and simply put.
Excuse me.
And that 210 is now gonna go into capital reserve.
It'll be discussed as a capital
Capital
reserve
reserve.
item.
That's correct.
Because we have other items that we haven't talked about yet in that.
But that's gonna float for a bit. But
That's
that's
correct.
probably where it'll.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you agree in that in concept, I'd recommend that we endorse that to move the
Right.
project forward.
Right.
So basically what we're asking is that Article 9 be, it's a maintenance article, and then we're gonna go forth with that 210,000 in a different article for capital reserve.
That's right.
Yeah, that's correct.
I'll make that a motion right this second.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay.
Must repeat it.
Okay. That's much more simple.
All right, so a motion second, all in favor in the budget committee? There's two, and all abstain, so, thank you.
And that's also a play, so if it comes to push and shove, we've got that money to play with at some point.
Right, well, we have a balance too, I mean, we're not exhausting all of the 300, so we're going to see that on
So we do
a
have-
separate
we have-
spreadsheet.
There's some wiggle room there, it's
Yeah.
nice to have some wiggle room.
But I think it's been a critical discussion that we've had at building committee, and now we're having, here today at the workshop, that when we went out for the turf, we heard over and over again that we had not planned appropriately. And so we have to face that in order to plan, we're going to be putting things, not only in capital reserve, but bringing things into the budget that have to be addressed. And capital reserve may need to be a fund that isn't used so immediately, that is looking long range, because I'm looking right at the track right now. And someday that track is gonna need a new surface. And so, how do we do this with capital reserve and accept that our budget is going to help to host some of these more immediate 0 to 1 year needs?
This is what I have as a hope of optimism. I'm gonna check to see if board members are here then. Remember back years ago, there was a state renovation fund monies, you probably remember that. Anyone remember that on the board? Well, it's similar to that, but Emo Janess was the author in Maine, because I'm gonna make this up, I'm gonna lie a little bit, I'm gonna stretch the imagination. At that time, SID 22 was probably the greatest recipient of that money. What it was is, when you received the money from the state, 80% of it was forgiven, 20% was interest-free. and it was for building projects like the widening roof, fix some of mine. So if we had $300,000 from the state, 80% at 240 was forgiven, and the 60 was interest-free. Do you remember that, Rob?
How did we get that program back?
Well, the governor vetoed that too. Alan, you might remember that, years ago. We had a lot of money coming to this district for state revolving renovation fund money. It was called 80-20, that was the formula. And there's been some discussion in the last 12 months to reignite those monies. So if you hear that term in the future, beg your legislators to support it, because it'll play perfectly what we're talking about tonight. It'll ease the pressure of that capital reserve and so on, because that's money that the email authored, that he was very precise on that, and we receive, looking at Don, I'm picking on Don, I mean, that was 4 or 5 or 6 years, and we had like $3 million coming over the course of 5 years for this district. And he did a stellar job of that, so just keep that in mind, state revolving renovation fund monies.
And I remember we used them everywhere, it wasn't
Oh,
just,
yeah.
because we worked with it when we were trying to get Newburgh.
Except
able to
on
buy-
buildings.
That's
be able to
right.
buy their school,
That's right.
and we couldn't sell that to them because of that.
That's exactly right. Nick, do you
But
remember that?
there were restrictions.
Okay.
Just vaguely, but I don't.
I'm just
remember
showing
what
my
you
age,
said.
I guess, more than anything else, but obviously it was perfect fit for exactly what we're talking about tonight, and that's why I thought about it.
And it did, you couldn't use it on buildings that were eligible for
You must have had some.
capital projects, because that would be double dipping.
Right.
So you had to decide, was it bad enough for you to fix, or were you,
Sure.
wait till it's broken and had to be
Right.
replaced? And I think it probably, in the right circumstance, saved the state, the taxpayer a lot of money.
Oh,
Sure.
And
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
some things, when they get worse, cost a lot.
Of course.
The synergies of what else happens inside.
Yeah, okay.
So that's, I forgot about that photo. That's
You-
why
I'm
we
sure
didn't,
you-
that's why some of these, I mean, we haven't seen that.
Well, because they were taken by other,
Yeah.
it's like the
That
capital
wasn't during
reserve.
this
There was
administration.
another fund, pardon?
That wasn't during this administration.
It probably petered out in the initial years of this administration. Years run by, we've lost John probably for the last 4 or 5 years, but prior to that, for like a 7 or 8 year period, we were bringing a lot of money in. I mean, a lot of money.
I have the list.
Whoa, look at that.
2011, chimney repairs, complete roof restoration, 88 bathroom renovations,
There you go.
paving, masonry.
Wow.
It's
So what's
extensive.
the total figure that I
Dollars on there?
This list alone, and this just has 2006 to 2011, so there were additional years, $2,070,800.
Wow, hear that? $2 million of basically pretty free money. 80-20?
Oh, yeah.
Interest-free?
That's why they've shifted the mill rate,
Yes.
8.1,
That's
8.5.
unbelievable.
Whoa.
That's the gift that keeps on giving, we used to call it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
gift that keeps on giving.
Right.
But you had to be, again, kudos to Emil, I'll be quiet on that. I mean, he was right
No
there at the right point in time.
No,
Scott Brown,
You should
who's
do it
still
in
the
violence.
director of the division, oversaw those funds.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
So May 1st, Article 1 and 2,
Yes, Articles 1 and 2, regular instruction and special education instruction.
copiers, equipment, field trips, supplies, contracted services, dues and fees, tuition reimbursements, et cetera.
That's right.
All right. It'll be a thicker one than today's one.
It'll be perfect.
All right.
That's all.
5:30, unless there are other comments,